Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I am going to assume that I am live here now, but you know what? I may be talking to myself because, yeah, that happens sometimes. Therapists tell me that you shouldn't do that, but hey, I'll do it. Um, how many people here have? Hey guys, how many people here have actually been like I don't know on Skype or something, and then they realize that hey, my microphone's been muted for the past like 30 seconds or a minute and a half or whatever. Yeah, that's too common with me. Too common. So welcome everybody. Hey, thanks Jesse. It's great to be here once again. Welcome to Backstage with Bucky. And for everybody out there, welcome to the backstage. You have backstage privileges to come and interact with musicians all around, wherever you find. We're going to have some great stuff today. We have the main thing tonight is that we have Stick Champion. Stick Champion is here. We're going to have a long interview with Stick Champion. He's going to tell us all about. Hey, Scaredy, thank you. He's going to have Ron. He's going to have all kinds of stories about life on the road, growing up as a musician in South Africa, and all kinds of cool stuff. So you stay tuned for that one. It's going to be really exciting. We should play a few tunes. You want a tune? Now I want to play you something. I'm going to play you something. Hang on now. Here we go. I got to reach my fiddle. So yeah, Clay, at least you got to come up with some new ones. You got to get some news. I like it. Now, when the other day, a few days ago, I was on, I popped on Agrid Show for 5 minutes and had a little chat with Agrid, and that was really cool, I got to say. That was a lot of fun. And I, of course, had my fiddle. So Agrid asked me, would I take a request? Now, I don't normally take requests at all because you know what? The problem with requests is like, say, if Scaredy says, Bucky, listen, man, can you play like the intro to YYZ on the fiddle? Well, see, the problem is that 99% of the time, you won't be able to play it. You know, it'll be a song that you really love and you really want to hear it, and then I can't really play that one that good. You know, well then I look like an idiot. So generally, musicians we hate to take requests, but after I play this tune, I have a Rush story for you, Scaredy, that I think you might enjoy. Now, so I was on Agrid Show, and Agrid asked me for a request, and there you go, Stick. And Agrid said, "Can you play You Are My Sunshine?" So I said, "Oh well, I can play that one." I was surprised it was something I could play because I probably wouldn't be able to play anything. There you go. I think that's the face when you fill in your drawers. Okay, so You Are My Sunshine is what I played. So I went the next day and did a bit of playing, and here it is. You Are My Sunshine. Yahoo! I love that. I love that tune. You know, yesterday I was doing some warm-ups, and in warm-ups you kind of just play whatever comes to you sometimes, in part of the warm-up. And then I started playing that song, and I went, oh yeah, I forgot that's one Eggert wanted to hear. And so I started playing it, and it kind of started coming together. It's a cool little tune to improvise around. So anyway, last night I went out in the shed and I recorded it. And I just posted a post of it a few minutes ago. So You Are My Sunshine. It's a beautiful little tune. You got to like it. When we so the Rush story for Scaredy. So of course Rush is Canadian. Rush has been here in Newfoundland many times. A long time ago, back in the 80s, I don't know what tour they were on. It might have been Power Windows. I'm not sure. Geddy Lee was downtown, and he slipped on some ice and landed on his hand and hurt his wrist. So he, yes, I did. I didn't forget this time. Thank you, Krim. Thank you very much, because I'm stunned. So he hurt his wrist, but he had to play in St. John's that night. So he called down. This is friends of mine were working at the show, so they were telling me this. So he called down to New York and got Will Lee. Now, if you're not familiar with bass player lore, Will Lee was the bass player and leader of the Saturday Night Live band for like decades. He's like monster musician. I mean, can play anything backwards. That guy would take requests. So Geddy Lee called him and said, can you come to Newfoundland? I got my wrist hurt. I need you to help. So Will Lee came up, stood backstage where my friends were, stood backstage and played the whole show. And Geddy was on stage. I'm not going to say lip syncing the bass part, but he was kind of taking it easy on the bass part. So his volume was turned down. And Will Lee was backstage playing the entire show. True story. Now, Stick. I'm sorry, Scaredy. Is that worthy? Is it worthy? I think that's a good story. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to have been there myself, but hey, what are you supposed to do? Now, okay. So, one of the things that I just want to bring up is that in recent discussions, we've been talking about collaborations and how we can collaborate as musicians. In here and Steam It. So there seems to be two types of collaboration that really falls into two categories. One is the collaboration where it will be live. Like, let's say we're getting together to have a jam. Like Will Lee playing for Geddy. That will be a live performance, instantaneous. You're right there. It's on the spot. That's it. The second, that's synchronous, of course, and asynchronous would be where you can upload recordings, and maybe somebody might add something to it and download it, and then do some manipulations and stuff, and that kind of stuff is really cool too. That's another type of collaboration that we've been exploring in here. Both of those collaborations are very exciting in here. The synchronous one may be technically really difficult, and we need to work towards it. And we need to have discussions about how we can make that happen, because I think we probably can't. There are some very significant latency issues that we can probably deal with or accommodate in some way. And then there's also the asynchronous, and what we need to do with asynchronous is try to get a system set up, maybe based out of our music chat room, to facilitate people easily being able to offer up a track or offer up something that somebody might want to then take away and do, and then vice versa, and then also be able to document all that. So if Krim was to take down something and say, I'm going to add a vocal part to that, well, then people know, and they say, oh, okay, she's working on it. Okay, so I won't touch it right now. I'll wait till she's finished, rather than everybody's kind of taking it and going every direction at 100 miles an hour. That's no fun, So I want everybody this year, if you have an inkling towards music, and I want you to give some thought to these things, because the more organized we are, the more we're going to be able to accomplish big things. Very, very exciting. Very exciting. Now, talking about exciting, I got to tell you, on Saturday morning, I got up extra early, and I got on my Skype machine and connected with a Stick Champion in the UK, and we talked for an hour and 40 minutes, and it was crazy good. Crazy good. I love it. It was really good. And so Stick, he offered to do that for us, and he's here tonight with us. So he can probably answer questions and things. But I'm going to hit play on the recording, and I'm going to turn off my microphone, and we're going to chat away, and we'll listen to my and Stick's conversation that took an hour and 40, and we'll be here to chat away as he's talking. So here we go. I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to push play. If anybody has any technical issues, if you don't hear anything, then let me know, and I will see what I can do about crying and bawling, and then Ron will step in and fix it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Backstage with Bucky, and you can take a seat on an amplifier, maybe a twin reverb over in the corner, or perhaps you're more of a Marshall person over on the other side, or you're a bass player, it's like an Ampeg or something. But you can take a seat on an amplifier because we have a special guest here today. We have all the way from England, we have Stick Champion. Welcome. Yoo-hoo! Great to have you. How's it going?
Not too bad. Just sitting here on a lovely, gloomy London day.
Is that right? Well, you know what? I think we're pretty close to each other because we're just across the pond, and it's gloomy here too.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I said England. Now, where would you, if you were telling somebody where you're from, where would you refer to it?
I'm actually from South Africa.
Okay.
I was there until I was 21. So.
Okay, so from South Africa, and anywhere in particular in South Africa are you from?
A place called Durban. It's like the third biggest city. It's on the beach. It's very popular with surfers.
Oh, yeah. So I saw some skateboarding stuff references on your blog. Is that where you get that from, the surfing and the skateboarding?
Well, you'd probably think that, but when I grew up, like late 80s to mid 90s, skateboarding, that was like the least popular thing you could do.
Really?
In terms of like getting girls and all of that, it was all about the Adonis surfers that emerged from the waves with their tans and their built upper torsos. So us stinky skateboarders who were skateboarding around the African sun, we weren't exactly the most popular people, but it set me up for life in terms of being the underdog.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that. That's good. Well, I saw a documentary a while ago about surfing in California. Oh, sorry, skateboarding in California, Dogtown.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really cool. I know because I have a longboard and I move around on it. That's all I could say. But I know very, very, very little about skateboarding. So the whole culture and where it came from, the origins in California anyway. That was really exciting to see. So you're one of those guys, but you're the South African version of one of the guys in Dogtown.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of funny because I follow this this girl who started skating. I think she's only 8 or something. But I just was saying, like, it was kind of funny back in my day because a lot of my friends I still have today is the people I grew up skateboarding with. It was like a real tight bond. An amalgamation of just culture and not really sport, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Activity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's funny because it's funny the way that the environment really affects what we do as a pastime. Here in Newfoundland, we have pretty harsh environments, and the ocean, the Atlantic that we're on, the version of the Atlantic that we're in, it's about 7 degrees Celsius all year. So if you go in it, you got 7 minutes before you begin to die. So not a lot of surfing. There's a lot of avoidance. Like the last thing you want to do is go into water. Actually, it's funny because I spent a lot of time underwater. When I was young, my grandfather was a fisherman, fishing codfish, in an open boat offshore. So we'd go out in boat, and I'm like 12, very skinny. No muscles whatsoever. I wouldn't be a surfer in South Africa. And we used to wear this black diamond rubber gear, so it's rubber clothes, full suit, pants and coat, because if you get wet, you die. So anyway,
Yeah.
I have this on. No life jackets or anything. Anyway, because, we're talking like in the 70s, right? So anyway, I was standing on the wharf. My grandfather is like doing something down the boat, and he he looks up at me, and I'm standing there with this adult size black diamond rubber gear on that weighs about 85 pounds, and I'm like 12, probably maybe 80 pounds myself, and he says, "Geez, bye, if you goes overboard, kick it all off you because you're going right to the bottom." So anyway, the idea was if you go into water, haul all your clothes off as soon as you can, because you'll never be able to get out of as soon as the cold strikes you. You won't have enough strength in you to haul yourself back in the boat again. Anyway, that's
Right.
life in Newfoundland. But you know, it's funny because we have fantastic waves and stuff here, and there are surfers that come here with the full dry suits on, but
Yeah.
it's just like it never caught on with the locals, because we'd see people surfing and we'd say, "You're crazy. Nobody goes in that." But it's funny the way the environment, shapes what we do, and the music too. I listen to some of the music that you have up on your site and up on your blog, some of the recommendations that you've had, and I could see like a shaping of your past. Your history is shaped in the music you show. You know, just for those people out there, Stick Champion here is a fantastic musician, and we're going to talk a bit more about that as we go along. But right now, we're just trying to get to know the guy, and like you have a really wide range of likes on your listening. I saw a lot of stuff up there. The Lee Hazelwood, I saw all kinds of stuff up there that was really exciting. Like, what sort of styles would you say, if you had to pick, I don't know, maybe 5 of the styles of music that you listen to in a run of a day? Not say your favorite or anything, but what's 5 kind of styles you find yourself listening to in a run of a day?
Yeah. I'd say so off the top of my head. Well, basically the soundtrack. It's funny as I sort of like watch. Basically, the soundtracks that I got into, all the music I got into, primarily came from skateboarding videos.
Mhm.
And when I go back and watch these skateboarding videos, I almost pick up riffs I've stolen, production ideas, everything's almost there.
Yeah.
And the thing with the skateboard videos is the music on there was quite varied. And then also adding into that, like where I grew up, you sort of had to be a sponge for everything.
Mhm.
So I think if I lived in London, I would probably be way more niched in terms of my music because you
Sure.
can burrow so deep. Whereas when I was in South Africa, like you get the skate videos, you'd have the sort of 90s hip hop, you'd have the punk, you'd have the classic rock, you'd have some electronica, some drum and bass, and then you'll just go sort of that stuff up. But to come back to your question with that in mind, so 5 things I'll go through. So 90s hip hop is big up there because that was when I was sort of a teenager.
Mhm.
Some classic punk rock, 70s to 80s. Moving into your sort of post-punk sort of stuff like the and stuff like that. I really love the marriage of punk idea and angular guitar with electronics. I really like that. I'm a huge fan of like orchestral type stuff. I really like the Walker Brothers stuff. Full Spectre and all that kind of stuff. And lastly, I'd probably just say, because it was born out of London, I like to throw in some classic drum and bass, because if you listen to some really old drum and bass that was made in London and you ride the train with the gloomy skies,
Yeah.
everything really makes sense about your environment.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that's what I'm saying. Like I said earlier, the environment really helps define who it is and what we're making. I really think that. Like yesterday, I went and recorded a couple of fiddle tunes, but I went out on the coast, so I was like standing on the edge of a rock, hanging off a cliff, basically with my fiddle, and I played a couple of tunes. And when I was playing it, I was saying, "Yeah, this is where this needs to be played. This sounds right here
Yeah.
with the wind blowing, spray from the water getting all over my fiddle. That's where it needs to be." So, like you're saying, that drum and bass stuff on the train. Gloomy sky, I don't know, maybe some food, I don't know.
Sort of like the sort of we got those like council estates. I don't know I guess it's like the projects in New York,
Yeah.
but you have those big sort of concrete blocks, and again, it's all that kind of stuff. Just how fast moving London is, and yeah, like I said, I'd say if I was a tour guide, I'd make like a drum and bass playlist and make sure it was a really miserable day and stick someone on the train for 2 hours and go, there's your London. Forget Big Ben and fish and chips. There's your London.
That's excellent. That is excellent. Yes, that's exactly right. Yes, it would be the soundtrack. And like I wonder. Sometimes I wonder about that. I wonder, but what is the soundtrack of a place like that? Somebody would say, well, the place created the soundtrack, or did the soundtrack create the experience of the place? Like some people say, oh, the first time I ever visited, I don't know, the Rocky Mountains. I don't know. I was listening to John Denver, or I was listening to Chemical Brothers or something, and so you'd have a certain sound in your head, and then whenever you hear that, you think the Rockies. Well, I wonder, some music, it was created in the environment, and I think that the music is tied right to that environment. Like you're saying, some of that music you're talking about there now was probably created right there, so they were experiencing it at that time. And like really so the place defined the art, and then for somebody who maybe visits, like if I went over there and I did what you're saying, and I put on that music as I'm experiencing that for the first time, the art can help me define what the space is. It's interesting. I find it interesting. That's very cool. One of the things that I grappled with when I was younger. Where I play violin, I used to play. I play a lot of Brahms. Brahms, fantastic composer. Now I always have trouble with Brahms. Brahms is tough, and it's not tough note wise as much, but it's tough musically. It's hard to play right. So I remember years ago, there was a guy from Tanzania I used to study with, and I studied with him for a few years, and he was a really great musician. And he said. What you got to think about when you're playing Brahms is Brahms was 400 pounds. And I said, okay. And he said, yeah, and he used to write everything while he'd be walking out in his garden. He used to write everything while he's walking. And really? And I said, yeah. So if you're playing Lullaby and Good Night, da 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 da, we said, you got to think of 400-pound man plodding along, walking through his garden. And I said, okay, sure. And you know what? That was the key that unlocked Brahms. You got that in your head, So it's the same sort of thought. It's like, drums and bass is the gloomy train ride, fish and chips. Well, Brahms is you got to imagine that you're, that you are that 400-pound guy plodding along, because the movement has to be very methodical. It can't be there's no quick movements as such in Brahms. I mean,
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, interesting stuff. Very cool. Well, like you referred to some of the the post punk stuff, and I know that you're a you and I have had an opportunity to chat back and forth on and steam it quite a bit and work on some things together and stuff. And I have to say, you do have a real punk attitude towards the way things need to be done, which I love. By the way, not to butter you up or anything, but that's really cool. Do you want to talk a little bit about where does that? Tell us first of all, what is the punk attitude for those people out there who are not really familiar with it? What's the punk attitude, and where does it come from for you, like personally for you?
First of all, the punk attitude is not. You're not going to find it in department stores or documentaries. It's not the leather and the spikes and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I would say I only really discovered it about in my late 20s, I'd say, because I came from South Africa, and within the paradigm of you write and create music to become successful and to make a living out of it. And that was sort of the idea in terms of music. This, you put it up on a pedestal, and that's pretty much why I moved to London. But the people I got in with, they were more into, writing stuff because it's fun, making stuff easier because you want to have fun. So I'd say point number one is probably just to make sure that it's, enthusiasm over ability. So if you want to do something, you'll figure out all the rest as you go along. So that's probably like the main thing. But So I was just a drummer for like the first 10 years or so in London, and I was playing in a couple bands and got to tour a little bit. But this one band I managed to get with this guy. It's a band called Black Time, and we had the most of our inverted commas success because we did a little bit of touring on a very, very, very small label. I mean, we had to pay for our own flights and everything.
Hmm.
But this guy, he did his first album. He did everything by himself on a 4-track.
Hmm.
And that to me was absolutely mind blowing. And together with that, he started to encourage me to, because I've been playing guitar since I was 13, alongside drums as well. And he started to encourage me to record my own songs and start making my own music and starting to learn all that side of things. So I'd gone from getting into music that was more enthusiasm over ability to actually being able to produce your own stuff, because as anyone knows, like yourself, the usual paradigm is form a band, rehearse, play a few gigs, go into a studio, spend ridiculous amounts of money, and usually walk out of there with something that you're actually not really happy with.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm kind of digressing a bit, but
No.
that's
This is great. This is deadly. Love it.
so, yeah, it's basically those sort of things of like, I think you just have to, I wouldn't say it's so much of a punk attitude. It's more just how much do you want to make music, basically, and how much are you prepared to do. So for me, like most Saturdays, I'm rehearsing. I would love to lie in on a Saturday and do stuff, but I go rehearse and have a bunch of fun.
Hmm.
I get lazy like everybody else, but at the end of the day, how much do you want it? So yeah, so basically the you know through Steam It, I've basically got a place to play my stuff. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's almost like the purest form of like appreciation, because even when you play shows, like it's normally your friends, and they're nice and all, but if you're putting your music up on Steam It, it's almost like complete strangers. So I've had a lot of affirmation over the last 2 months to be like, okay, you're putting out some good stuff. You should probably keep doing it. Whereas before, you go on your SoundCloud and you tell your friends, and people don't really care. I mean, I don't really listen to a lot of my friends' stuff just
Hmm.
because everybody's kind of lazy. So I kind of find that where we are with Steam It and that, it's just got some really cool lightning focus. Um, so
Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. A friend of mine who's very successful in the music business said you should never create anything, whether it's put together a show or record an album, where you're relying on your friends and family uh, to to for its success. So yeah, it needs to be something that if it's meant to be a success financially, you should never rely on anybody. You should always just expect strangers to appreciate it. And if you can't, then that's what he was saying. I mean, that's open for discussion. But this from the Steeman point of view, I'm totally with you on that. I think that we have an opportunity here as artists to be able to put up something fairly easily into wide distribution and have a very clear way to get not only our pats on the back and you did a good job, but also get a few cents, get a few dollars.
yeah,
I don't know what it's like in the UK for royalties, but like I mentioned this in a post a couple of days ago. Here in Canada, if you get something on a mainstream radio station here, you get about 5 cents for a play. So for if I was to record a hit and okay, you might get a bump at the beginning with a hit, but let's say a year later or 2 years later, that hit is only getting 5 cents per play. So let's say you get paid $25 played 25 times a day. That's not a lot of money. It's hard to live on that.
no,
So there's no doubt about it that the mainstream, the traditional way of getting paid is crazy. Music Coin is one that I've been looking at lately, and Music Coin, you put your music up there, and then every time it's played, you get a coin. Now those coins right now are worth like a cent. Um, but
Oh, cool.
but still, like it's okay. So like this is the thing that people say. People would say, okay, well, Bucky, you get a cent if they play it. You know, what's the big deal? And it's okay. Well, so if Stick Jumpion plays my song, I get a cent. So and so over somewhere else plays, I get a cent. So and so gets plays this. Okay, I got 5 cents. 5 people listen to it. Okay, that's what I would get if I was being played on a radio station in Toronto. Like I would get 5 cents. So I just got the same royalties
Yeah,
as I would get in Toronto, getting played on a major radio station in Toronto. So I mean, really, even today with the cryptocurrency value of Musicoin being like 1 cent, it's still better than mainstream. So really, if I had my choice today on being like having a song that's get some good airplay for a couple of months on major Canadian radio stations versus being able to explore this avenue, I take this avenue. So and the thing too about this stick, one of the things that I'm really excited about is that I have no idea where this is going. So
yeah,
as a
definitely.
musician, yeah. So as musicians here, like we're going, like Buzz, I don't know where is this going. Like they've opened up a can of worms. Okay, first of all, so there's no way to get that back in the box now. Like if they say, okay, no, we're shutting down Musicoin. Well, all the musicians that have now had a taste of this format are going to say, no, wait a
Yeah,
second now. Somebody else got to
yeah,
start this up because this has been working. So, boys, figure out the business model, figure out all that voodoo behind the mining and foolishness that I have no idea about. Figure all that out
yeah,
because I'm not going back. So
yeah,
I think that the future is very, very exciting. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm exploring ones like Musicoin and Steam It because there may be another one tomorrow, maybe another one the next day. Well, let's explore them and see where they go, and then one of them, they'll figure it out. So I'm there. I want to be there.
yeah.
So it's very exciting.
I I would definitely like the main thing that I would like to see, because for me personally, I have this internal struggle, which luckily Steve had managed to sort out, is I'm like heavily principled about, why I do stuff, especially creatively. And that butts head with the marketing side of things, which I really don't like, but I understand that you have to do it. So I'm like, yeah, I still find it hard to like ask people to listen to my stuff because I just don't like it. Because like most people, like you should come across it organically. So like on the Steamer thing, and I think like if these kind of things take off, then we should hopefully have some sort of ethical leveler where you can get rid of all that marketing nonsense. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason why a lot of people are really successful, and we're talking from way back, if you know your music history, you know that there's a marketing genius behind any superstar. I mean, one story that pops off the top of my head is I remember seeing the way they managed to break Alice Cooper in the UK was that they had this massive billboard on like a sort of trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and the trailer like broke down in one of the main roundabouts in London, but it
Yes.
was all a complete farce.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to get the word out there, and that's cool. I like that,
Yeah.
but things have changed so much now that it's really like satirized, and it's really advertising revenue heavy. So like a way to explain this I was thinking earlier was like so for me, like 2 months ago, unfortunately, like myself and my girlfriend split up, hard times. So you throw yourself into your music and you make this like beautiful song and you pour your heart into it, and it gets some sort of traction. Let's say next thing you got the guy from Starbucks ringing you up, and he says, I like your song, can we use it on a commercial? So you have a big choice there, but this is what happens if you go yes, certainly. The guy will probably only give you 5 grand or something. It's going to be really pittance.
Yeah.
But then what happens is your song does get popular. Yes, it does. And you experience a little bit of fame, but your song about your personal breakup, people will go, the Starbucks song. And you're like,
Yeah.
what? So this is the kind of thing that can keep me awake at night. Like, it's just so disgusting. I can't stand it. So coming back to that question from the eons ago, I think that would be a good example of the punk attitude of the fact that that idea actually disgusts you, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on all that. I was recording this. I was in this band years ago, a long time ago, and there was a guy in the band. He was an ex biker, big guy, like he was just like a wall, and a really sensitive fella. You know, he was a great guy, great singer, big baritone sound. You know.
Yeah.
So he did this tune, and we had this on the list of things we were recording. That's this day. So I said, okay, this is good. So he recorded it, and then we said, okay, that was good. That's good. So let's do it again. Let's take it again. So we did it a second time, and I'm fiddling with microphones and all that. And let's do it. Okay, let's do it a third time. So we did it a third time. I said that was really good. I think it's really shaping. I'm starting to really feel a shape. I said, do you think you want to do it again? And I've been fiddling with microphones and cables and everything all this time, and I looked at him. This is the first time I actually looked at him. Now this guy was, when I say biker, I'm not talking like Hollywood biker. I'm talking like this guy is serious, like he's serious business. And he said, and the tears were flowing down his face. And I said, holy cow, man, what's time to go? And he said, I can't do this song anymore. He said, that's it for me. And I said, yeah, really? Well, so we did. I just stopped everything, right? I powered everything down. I said, like, okay, so like, you okay? And he said, this song is, it's about this girl I knew, and he said, I can't go back there anymore. And he said, so I just can't do this anymore. I can't do that song anymore. He said, I think whatever we have is what we're going to have. And I was going like, holy cow, man, that's crazy. But now the thing is, it would be a shame if that got on Starbucks. Okay, I'm with you on that one. That, it'd be a shame. Da 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 da. Next thing you know, your love song is a McDonald's commercial. I'm with you on that. But on the other side of that, I think that we have to be in control of what we allow our music to be used for. And there's so many examples of musicians over the years who say, no, I'm not letting Pepsi use my thing. I mean, there's all with Neil Young back in the 90s.
I love him.
Yeah, so I mean, great Canadian. And he said, no, I'm not being used for like a Budweiser commercial. He wrote songs about it. So we do have the ability to be able to say no, then we're not using it for this, we're not using it for that, and that's one thing. But the other thing too is that you and I, and our artist friends out there who are listening, we're in a very precarious situation because our art is connected directly to our soul. I mean, it's connected directly to our guts. And when I play anything, like when I play these things online, when I do my fiddle stuff in the shed and I'm looking at a piece of art, there's times when I'm playing it and like when I finish, like I can just manage because it's coming from somewhere really foreign, and it means a lot to me. So if I put it out, I put it up on Steemit, and I'm going, here you go, and people can go, oh, that's really cool, I like that, and I'm going, that's cool, I'm glad you like it, that's all right. But for me, it was a big deal for me, and if it can scratch the emotional thing that somebody else is, if it scratches a little bit, then okay, that's cool, that's excellent. If it really connects in a big way, well, then I'm a master. But I don't get that. But if I can scratch the emotional response in somebody, then it's probably a fraction of what I felt. If I choose then to say, you want to use that for a Starbucks commercial? No, I'm not. Okay, you can offer me whatever money you want. I'm not doing that. That's not that song. I got another song you can have, or maybe I'll write you something. But
exactly.
But now, like you mentioned something earlier about wanting to be able to make the music and wanting to be able to make the music that you're passionate about, make the art that you're passionate about. And for me, it's the same way. Now, a lot of the times you hear me on talking about, I'm working with clients. I'm away with a client. So you hear me talk that a lot because it takes up a lot of my time. But see, I choose my clients really carefully, and I turn away 10 to 1 on clients, because if a client comes to me and says, I want you to do this thing for me, and I would say, well, okay, well, explain to me what it is that you want, what it is that you do. And I would say, I don't think that's going to be a creative outlet for me. So I choose my clients very carefully, and then when I'm making the art for them, whatever it is a creative outlet for me. that I find really rewarding. So I can get paid then to do something that's in the ballpark of something that I would be doing anyway. And that really works well for me. And I clued into that only probably maybe, I mean, I'm 47. I clued into that probably maybe 5 years ago, I suppose, that I started taking on clients for real. But I made the commitment that I would be very particular about what I'm doing. And I've been working with clients, and I've gotten halfway through, and I've said, "Yeah, you're gonna get somebody else. I'll look no charge on anything I've done so far. Any of the footage that I've got, you can have, but I'm not doing anything else." But like that's for me, that ends up being really rewarding because I can then choose what I'm working on. I can choose who I want to work with and what I'm going to do. And at the end of it, it has to be creatively rewarding for me. So that works well. And so
Yeah. I was just gonna say, because now that you mention it, like as I'm thinking about it, if someone through Steemit or something had to approach me and ask me to make music for commercial, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it, and I'd probably get into it. I think the only thing I would stress to people like listening or thinking about it is I really hate the whole there seems to be a massive paradigm of like this whole rock and roll like hate work sort of stuff, which I'm kind of against, only because like I said, like I've just got like a normal sort of office job working for the government, but I kind of see the advantages in that because it doesn't take a lot of my brain power. It's really easy. So I can use that to my advantage. Like I said, I have income, I can do stuff, I can buy things, I can go on holidays. So I guess all I'm saying is don't worry. If your day job's not that bad, don't worry about it so much and just keep making your music. Don't sort of try to be this, I don't know. I'd say that's the antithesis of the sort of punk idea. It's more like work with what you got, if you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I get you. I'm the same way. I'm a teacher. So I teach music all day, which I love doing. But I have my summers off. I'm finished at like 3 every day. So I can make music all night. I can make music all summer. Yeah. My weekends off. And like you said, you get a few dollars in your pockets. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Somebody said one time, this guy that I know, he works for the government, and he's a hard ass. Like he's this guy, like he's not a cog in the wheel. He's a wrench. He's a wrench in the cogs. And but he's right at the top of the government. And I said, don't you find it frustrating? Like, wouldn't you want to be like, outside of that box? And he said, Bucky, you can do a lot more damage inside the box than you can outside the box.
Oh yeah.
So that was the punk attitude right there, because he'll put his suit and tie on every day, and he'll go and he'll be like, he's in sabotage mode every day, in a good way. I mean, he's really like, he's one of these, like, he's Robin Hood. So he's doing the right thing all the time, and half the time nobody even knows it. So he's the kind of guy too that would do it and not tell anybody, and nobody will ever know, and you'd find out later. Oh, this wastage that was happening in public transit, that got resolved and straightened away. And
yeah.
But this guy did it, Anyway, but but I'm with you on that. I see people on Steam as well. How many people on Steam keep saying, I want to make Steam at my job, and like, okay, great, excellent. But,
oh no, seriously,
really Steam at your job, like, are you like 6? Like really. I don't know. But
that kind of ties in what I'm saying. So it's like, okay, if you want to make Steam at your job, then you're going to have to write things. You're going to have to write a lot of stuff. And if you're going to write a lot of stuff, then your filter's going to go out the window.
Exactly.
Your creative filter. So you're just going to be churning out absolute garbage. Yeah. Whereas it's funny because, like anyone, I sort of started up and I did a few things, and it's amazing. I just put up a post today, and it's like got pictures and video and writing, and it's like, whoa, I've like come so far. And I limit myself to about 3 a week now, because those 3 are going to be like, well, besides my sort of football stats one, the other 2 are going to be pretty much like taking like some good writing, and and that's the thing. So I'm not making like a lot of money off Steemit, but in terms of catharsis, that's the thing. Like, I go into work the next day, I'm feeling pretty chilled. Like,
Yeah.
anything that like got me angry, like whatever was going on in my life, I just vomited it all over the keyboard and it's done. You know.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
it's really cool. My father, my father's 77, and he's a musician too. But he spent all of his life as a school principal, headmaster, and Dad's a great guy. He's a fantastic musician, real knowledgeable about Irish music and Scottish. And anyway, many years ago, when I was quite young, and I finished my university degree, and I got out teaching, teaching music, and I was dabbling in all kinds of stuff, trying to find, of course, when you're young, when you're very young, your principles are a bit strange. Like, you want to make money, you want
yeah,
this, I want the car, I want. Anyway, Dad kept saying to me, he wasn't one to force his opinion on you, but Dad would say, "Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget where you comes from." And I was saying, what are you talking about? He said, "You're a fiddle player. You're a fiddle player. Don't forget where you comes from. All that stuff's fine. Go out, do what you got to do, but never forget where your place is. You're a fiddle player." And I was going, yeah, whatever. I can do this and I can do that. I can be an astronaut if I want to be. Yeah, that's all fine. But don't forget where you comes from. And you know what? I would go through times in my life where I would have like bad things happen. Like you were saying a little while ago, you unfortunately had a breakup, and like I would go through the same sort of stuff in my life, whatever the flavor of it was. And you know what? The thing that always brought me back to earth was the fiddle. It was always whether it was I was short on cash, and I said, you know what? I just got to turn back to the fiddle. Whether it's going through like say an emotional thing where I got to settle my head. Yeah, go back to the fiddle. And I keep coming back. So when I come to Steam It, and I say, if you look back at my very early blog stuff, there's always things I was interested in, like photography, and I'm interested in Newfoundland and history and all that kind of stuff, and music, of course. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing a lot of things that weren't there. Now it started to turn into music, post after post after post after post. Because, you know what? I know my place. I know what I do best. I know what makes me happiest. It's fiddle. It's music. So that my filter is to be doing the things that I'm passionate about. If I'm taking a client on, and the material I'm doing with the client is not something that's connecting with me, then that's it. We're done. And it's the same in here. You do what you do best. Like really, like I think that like if we take something like I want to talk about this, and this is probably a good segue. We did the tune together, me, you. Well, first it was you, and then Carl Nasher, and then I jumped in, and then Vashmore jumped in, and then I think that at that stage, Julia Ponsford came in, and I believe then I think Usaymon did something too with this piece. I don't even know what we called it. But I'm going to go way back to the beginning when you laid down that drum track. Now, I've been, like I said, I'm 47. I've been around a lot of music over the years, and I've done, like yourself, I've seen a lot of musicians. I've heard a lot of stuff. That initial drum track you laid down, I could listen to that track only by itself, just that. I could listen to that over and over and over and over, because it reeked of groove. It was musical. I could, you were speaking from your heart in that simple little drum track. Now, I don't know if you could see that, because, we're our own worst enemies, right? We're our own worst critics. But I was listening to that track, and when you go to that ride, it was just like, oh, right in the pocket. See, so that content, like that right there, what you did, that was off the charts, crazy good. I loved it. It was fantastic. If you said, like sometimes as musicians, as artists in general, I think, we sometimes get really caught up in the big full production. And sometimes I like to produce things that is the full deal. So it would have the video aspect of it. It'll have a full arrangement of music. It'll have all the performances, all the things done, mixed together, done perfect. So when you watch it, when you listen to it, it's a complete package. Sometimes we want to hit in that place, and I think we all need to strive for that. But sometimes one single musical example is just so pure that it doesn't need anything else. Well, I was listening to that drum track, and I was like, I remember hearing it the first time I heard it, and I said, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." I put it aside on my computer, like I can put things aside and say, "Okay, this is cool. This is going right over here, and I'm gonna listen to that again." And that one got put aside, and I listened to it. I went back and listened to it again, and then I left it for a couple of days, and then I saw that Carl come in and did something, and I was going, "Yeah, see, now I'm not surprised because it's speaking to Carl too. It's speaking to him."
Yeah.
And then as soon as I saw him, I said, "That's it. I got to wade in on this because I love this. This is good." I knew it. Carl knew it. You played it. So that post you did was a pure, simple piece of art that on its own didn't need us to do anything. It really didn't. That was a drum track. It was a gorgeous drum track. What I'm getting at is I think that people like yourself and other artists out there need to kind of put a little bit more of a macro look on some things. Like I bet there's stuff you're doing in the run of a day that's just fantastic artwork that is ready for production, ready for publication now. I go back. Sometimes I go back in history and I say, okay, well, what would they have done in the 1700s? In the 1700s, they wouldn't have had all this production. It would have been just a piece of music. Like yesterday I went and played this waltz. I was out on the coast in Newfoundland. I didn't put any ornamentation. I didn't put any kind of fancy stuff in it. I didn't make it sound overly fancy. It was just me standing on this hill playing a simple fiddle tune that's probably 150 years old. And I tried to play it as they would have played it 150 years ago. And, that's it. I'm not putting in anything else. I'm not putting in any keyboards. I'm not putting in any drums, any guitar. Just that's the way it is. And I think that the music like that can stand on its own too. So, what's your thoughts on that? Please disagree.
No, I totally agree. It's quite funny. Like, it is like a moment in time because that was a couple of things. That was like, first of all, that was the eureka moment when I saw the full potential of being on Steam because the way it took off was like mind blowing, And prior to that, prior to Steam, prior to all of this stuff, I was always had my finger on the pulse of doing an internet band, collaborating via the internet. But I was dealing with like sort of musicians, punk rock musicians, and everyone was not half as tech, super lazy. So I had so many attempts, and it just did not happen. So through the sort of Discord thing, I just sort of started chatting to Carl somehow, and I actually pay for a little studio that we play in. I share Saturdays with. So anyway, so happened the guy I share with, he was away that Saturday, so I had a whole Saturday to record some stuff, and I said that to Carl a few days before. I said I'm going to go to the studio, and I'm going to record this drum beat, and so that's basically what I did. Prior to that, I'd kind of heard Carl's sort of stuff, so I knew it's got kind of a bit of a folky thing, and I was sort of channeling. I really love the band.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And
good Canadians.
Oh yeah, that's true. They are, except for the drummer,
Yeah.
Levon Helm.
Yeah.
He's from something like Turkey Scratch, Tennessee, or some weird place. Anyway, so I basically just channeled that, and it was pretty pure. I had an idea, and I just went for it. But and then it was really funny. It was really funny when you came in with the violin because you came out of left field. I always tell even like my friends if I get round to explaining, because it is still a bit of a secret because people just don't understand, and I'm just like, yeah, this dude from like Canada just like rolled in with his fiddle, like it was absolutely insane. But I was like, yeah, jaw on the floor moment, like, yeah, it was just like, this is crazy. So yeah, but I guess it also again, probably to any musicians listening, like there is that proactiveness that you have to have. At some point you have to put it on record.
Yeah.
Yeah. you got all these thoughts in your head and all these things swim around, but at some point you just got to nail it down. And like in that case, it can sometimes far surpass any of your expectations. As like a little bit of a segue, I actually organized one of my own tours of the States years and years back when I formed my own band.
Oh yeah.
And because I had a couple contacts and, we played a couple shows and it was fun. I mean, the stories and that, well, will stay with me forever. But the main thing that sticks out is we played a show in Philadelphia and this guy came to the show. He'd never seen us before, just was there. And then we played a show the next day, which was in York, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours drive away. So not too far. But anyway, this guy showed up at the next show.
Mm-hmm.
And again, something completely organic. And this is an important part of music fans because, it's nice to, but yeah, just the fact that this guy made an effort and again, you just gobsmacked. You don't know what to do because you think on one hand, you think it's a bit weird, like obviously, but on the other hand, you like just simply sort of blown away. The other band I was in that played drums. So we were based in London and we had a guy who had come to all our London gigs from Scotland, which is like 12 hours away.
Wow.
Well, no, more like 6 hours away. But, I'm not talking like your Saturday night gigs. I'm talking like your sort of Tuesday night gigs to like 5 people. And we saw this guy 2 or 3 times and our singer went up to him and said, oh, how's it going? Like, oh, it's cool that you came down to the show. Like, are you here on business? Or he's like, no, I just came to see you. And he's like, okay. And he's like, how did you get here? He's like, I just got the coach. He's like, where are you staying? He's like, oh, because the guy was like, I kind of wanted to invite him to stay at my house, but I was kind of a bit scared that I'd wake up and he'll be sniffing my pants or something. so it's kind of weird because, yeah, you do have respect for these. You are a bit guarded, but what I'm getting at is it's one person out of, all these people that you play to, and it's just really amazing when that happens. So
yeah.
I would say it was the same feeling I got when you flew in from left field and it just took off. So
yeah, well,
yeah.
I'm with you on that. That's a great story. I know what you're saying, and I think that in marketing they call it the long tail. There's people out there that are interested in all sorts of things and all sorts of entertainment or interests. The internet allows us to reach those people on that long tail, no matter how maybe obscure your music or your art is the Steemit or the internet in general allows us to reach everybody, reach these people. They're out there in the far-flung reaches. Now, but the thing is, well, look at that guy, the guy you're talking about. He was really passionate about what you guys were doing, but he probably got it early. And if enough exposure, another guy would have been flying in every day or coming in the coach every day from Ireland, or somebody else coming up from down south. Because then all of a sudden people were going to start saying, yeah, I heard about this band, and they're really good. Now my buddy, he's on the forefront, like he got good ears, and he loves them. And then all of a sudden you got another one and another one and another one. I remember reading years ago with my students. I'm always trolling for great music, new music. And years ago, I pulled up this video to show my students, my music students, and I said, "You got check this one out." Like there was like 9,000 views on his Facebook thing, and listen to it. Oh, it's really good. But no followers, nobody knew him. And we started listening to him, listened to a few tracks, get up to a few live tracks. This is Ed Sheeran. And he tells a story about traveling all over London and in the outside of London, playing these open mics for free. And
I thought you were going to tell me that it was actually Justin Bieber, because he's another Canadian. I thought that was going to be the punchline, so I'm disappointed.
No,
anyway,
not Bieber. No, not Bieber. Sorry. No, but the thing is, I think I can see what you're saying about I have people who listen to. I have some people who I adore, who listen to everything I put up on YouTube. On Steemit, and they comment and they upvote and they are always following. They love it, and I adore them because they share they share my love of what I'm doing. Like, I'm sorry to be biased, but I love what I do, and
Yeah.
and they do too. And I adore that. And I would do anything for them. Holy cow! If one of them said, "Bucky, I need you to fly to Philadelphia and visit my mom," I'd say, "I'm on the plane." You know, like I would do anything for them. But the thing is that I think that I would like to think that the people that are listening to my music, maybe I might have a small attraction. In the end of the day, if the entire world listened to my music, I might only still appeal to a small portion. But these people are the early adopters. These people are people who got good ears, and they're hearing what I'm doing, and they like it. Same thing as the guy from Philadelphia. Same thing as the guy who came in from Scotland. Got good ears. Yeah. He's connecting early. That's really exciting. But when I heard your drum track, I was connecting early. I mean, maybe I think that a lot of people who would hear that drum track would agree with me. That they would say, "Oh yeah, it was cooking. It was right in the pocket." I mean, you know, and I would love to hear more of that pure, that simple, unadulterated sound. Now, you know, but we have to do what we enjoy. I love stripped down stuff. I love really stripped down music, and the music you're listening to, I can get a picture of the music you enjoy and you enjoy creating, and as an end result. You know, we have to do what we like. And I tell my students, if you're true to your own musical integrity, the other people will get it later. They'll get it. They may not get it right away, and some people will. But if you're true to your integrity, like you are, then you will get those surprises, and you'll say, like somebody will say, "That is amazing." Yeah, it's amazing because it is amazing. It's just that you get it, and that person in Scotland gets it. The other people will get it eventually, but he gets it right away. So you just be true to your integrity, and then when and not chase something, because people chasing other artists and chasing different sounds, you know. I think that if you do what you do, then everybody is going to eventually fall in line, because it's just great stuff. I mean, I really enjoy it. You enjoy yourself.
Isn't it interesting, like, when you think of vocals are like the funniest instrument, because when I started singing in a band and stuff, I was petrified of that microphone for at least a month or so. You know, the voice that comes out of it, and you just want to hide in the corner. But the trick to singing, as long as you have some sort of what's the word, an idea of tone or timing and stuff, if you got that, all you really need to do is let go. And it's the hardest, easiest thing to do. So it's the same thing. You have to get really right down there and burrow deep, and just, I find singing really amazing, because I always tell people, like, some people you can carry a tune or something. I'm like, the only difference between you and a great singer is you're just a little bit cautious with it. Yeah. So that's why you're not hitting those notes, because you're not confident. So singing, I find, is really, really insane in terms of the way you feel and the sounds you produce. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. One of the things to do with my students to help them get over that barrier is I get them to do beatbox, and so I get all my students to do beatbox, and every single one, and they all do it. You know, and I do a lot of it. So, like, you'll start off doing basic, like, you know, Boots and Cats, you know, that kind of thing. And eventually they get to a point where they're doing stuff that's a little more complicated, and they're feeling a bit confident. But that's it's what we call paralinguistic, right? Paralinguistic music making. But it's not actually saying words or making tones as such. But I get them to it's a lot easier for them to move into the singing, because they've already been making sound with their body. So but I'm with you. I'm with you on that too. That letting go, you know, it's a big one. I tell people too, mostly adults. The big step for somebody who's like a closet singer, closet fiddle player, you know, closet musician, the big step is to go to somebody who you're comfortable with, and say to them in private, say, "Would you like for me to sing you a song?" And that's massive. That's massive. Because they're always going to say yes. And you say, would you like for me to sing you a song? And then, yes, sure, I would. And then you sing them your best thing that you know the best and you're most comfortable with and you're most proud of. And that a lot of people over the years, they say that was the turning point right there. Once I realized that I had something to offer and that people did want to hear me sing, well, then that's a big thing. But that's great.
One of No, I was just going to say one of my passions has always been like some of the bands I've collaborated together is normally being people who don't play, or like you say, closet like bass players. Like basically, when I was doing a lot of touring, I was sort of jumping between jobs, and I stayed with some good friends of mine, a married couple. I stayed with them for 6 months, so they had a bass, and the guy's wife used to play drums in school or something.
Yeah.
And so we basically formed a band because I was like, let's play. So people always like that. Again, coming back to the punk thing, I'm just like, I want to see if these people can play a gig. And we ended up playing a few gigs. We went to Italy, we put out a record on a small label, and we went to the States. So that was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of great musicians out there that are in their basement playing, and there's some people that will never come out, and that's fine too. Like they'll never play in public, and that's fine too. I'm sure there may be people out there listening to us right now who maybe play in their basement, and they never will want to play in public, and that's okay. But there are some people that are itching to play. I think that the confidence is something that is a it's make believe in a way. What keeps people back? The biggest barrier is themselves. If you can just get out of your own way, you can make some good music. And people will love to hear it. But that's what I'm saying too. That goes right back to what we're talking about, your drum track and the guy coming in from Scotland. Like if you were to say, oh, I don't know, this is not really that good. I don't think anybody's gonna want to hear that. And then you don't pull the trigger. You don't put it out. You don't go on stage. You don't go on tour. You don't put it out there. Well then it's of course you're never going to hear it. That's the way it is with everything. If you're a painter, if you're a poet, if you want anybody to have an opportunity to appreciate the work that you do, yeah, I got to pull that trigger and put it out. Got to push the post button. That can be daunting.
Well, I don't know how we could segue this, but ever since you mentioned Neil Young, I've been itching to tell you my favorite Neil Young anecdote and why he's so awesome.
Okay.
And it's basically, I don't know if you know the whole fiasco surrounding Geffen Records and Neil Young.
No, not really, no.
So basically, around the 80s and that, Neil Young got into like electronic sounds and, like vocoders and all that kind of synth sort of stuff.
Yep.
And he had signed to Geffen at some point. So Geffen had signed Neil Young, Harvest, On the Beach, Neil Young.
Yes.
Neil Young gave them an album called Trans, which I bought the record. The record's, it's Neil Young. It's still great. It's just kind of electronic and weird.
Okay.
But I mainly bought it because of the story. So he put out this album called Trans, and he was sued by Geffen for not sounding like Neil Young. Right?
Nice.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
But it gets even better than that because Neil Young, he fought it in court and whatever, he basically was asking Geffen, he said, so what is Neil Young then? They said, the rock and roll sort of stuff. So the next album he put out was like a 50s rock and roll parody.
Okay.
So I just love him for that. And those are the kind of people you should really have as your idols because it's like you said about him already with the, he doesn't want to do those songs, but that's just so awesome. Again, coming back to the punk thing, like first of all, he goes out on the limb and makes this album. Then someone says he doesn't sound like himself, which is an existential crisis in itself.
Yes, yeah, that's good.
And he asks them what they want, so then he goes and satirizes it even further. And I'm just like, that guy could just he could put out him making coffee in the morning, and I'd be like, I'm buying it because you just. So that's where the sort of, it's weird, like sort of the ethics will override the ability, just because it's like you're just so amazing to have done that.
That is cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that stuff. It reminds me of I listen to a lot of Tom Waits. I don't know if you're into Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a funny character too in sort of that way. Like back when he was forced by his label to put out a commercial album, and I think it was Rain Dogs, I think, and he did a press conference, and he said I really like Tom Waits, and I think his integrity is very, very high, and I like to think that this was him speaking from his heart. But he had the press conference and he said, my record label told me I had to produce a commercial album. That was with Downtown Train, the one Rod Stewart covered.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the album. Now, it was Tom Waits' version is 100 times better than Rod Stewart's version. But anyway, he said, so my label told me to put out this album. Here it is. I don't like it. Please don't buy it. And that was it. Stood up from the table, walked away. Press started like going, I got questions? No questions. Done. Like, I like to think that that's real. That wasn't a publicity stunt because he's not the type, Anyway, I love his stuff. He's one of my biggest musical influences. Like I've listened to Tom Waits for years and years and years, and I know that rickety kind of sound. I really like it. I love.
The thing is,
go
it's
ahead.
weird because I never got bit by the Tom Waits thing, and it's one of those annoying things because it makes a lot of sense to me on paper. Like I'm a huge fan of jazz. Like my dad was a big jazz fan, so I grew up with jazz. So I don't know, it just didn't happen for me. I'm sure you got bands like that yourself. But,
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, like another Canadian one that was a long time for me is Rush.
Oh yeah.
Rush, they're fantastic, and I remember being when I was younger. A buddy of mine's bass player, we used to live together, and he used to say, "Man, Rush is the best. It's the best music in the world." And I used to say to him, the only people that say they like Rush are people that want to be able to say they like Rush. But really, that wasn't true. I mean, Rush is an amazing band. I love their stuff now, but it took me a long time to sink my teeth into that.
I was gonna say be careful because Scaredy Cat Guy is a massive Rush fan. So
yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, they are fantastic. They're fantastic. But they're Canadian too, right? And the Canadian scene here. Actually, I'll mention this. Like I mentioned to you before, and I do a lot of these interviews with musicians, and for another thing I do, an educational thing I do. It's purely educational. It's closed, like it's not open to the public. But I interview great Canadian artists, and Rush is on my list for this year that I'm going to be going after to do an interview with one of them. At least,
wow,
probably Alex Lifeson, I'd say, because Canada's a small place, and we're all kind of one step away, two steps away from any particular artist. Like there's this guy Deadmau5, the guy.
Yeah.
So Deadmau5, Canadian, guy lives in Ontario. I mean, he's Grammy Award winner, like fantastic musician, in that field. So I was at a party the other night, and I said, the guy said, who are you going to be interviewing now coming up? And I said, oh, well, we got a few, Tegan and Sarah. I'm trying to get them lined up. And Dallas Green, City and Color, was another fantastic Canadian artist. And he said, what about Deadmau5? And I said, well, I've already made contact with his manager, but we haven't nailed anything together. And he said, oh, my friend is best friends with him. And I said, okay. He said, I'll give her a call. And I said, oh, sure. Perfect. So, like in Canada, it's such a small community, It's like if you want to get Sarah McLachlan, there's probably 2 phone calls away, Not saying that they would come on, but,
What about Celine Dion or the groover from Vancouver, Bryan Adams?
Oh, well, Bryan Adams, yes, I could probably get Bryan Adams, but Celine Dion, nah. Celine Dion, I mean, I'd like, well, yeah, like, I don't know if Celine Dion, like to some artists that, like I've turned down a lot of really high profile artists because I don't feel that they have anything educational that could help us, and I've had some that I can't have on because they're a liability, because they are a liability.
Yeah. I mainly put those two in there because we were discussing so much good Canadian music. I had to bring you down a peg or two.
There you go. Yes. So, well, listen, it's funny because somebody said before, it was on some show, some TV show in the States, and they said there are bands in Canada like Blue Rodeo and Tragically Hip that are just the best music you could ever hear in those rock and folk country rock kind of styles. Those bands Canada that are amazing, like Neil Young and the Guess Who, and he said, but all we get from Canada here in the States is Celine Dion, Shania Twain, Bryan Adams. I can't say much about Bryan Adams. I kind of like some of Bryan Adams stuff, but and he's supposed to be a really good guy. Like I have a good friend. Yeah, he's supposed to be a really nice fella.
I've heard just the opposite because my brother kind of works, well, he kind of knows things or has worked on sets and stuff, and I haven't heard too many favorable things.
Well, I don't know the guy.
We'll agree to disagree.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're probably right. I'm only just saying that just a patriotic Canadian. So you know what? I'm gonna throw him under the bus. I'm gonna throw him under the bus right now. Bryan Adams, if you're listening to this show, get your act together.
Who else is getting thrown under the bus? Celine Dion?
Celine Dion, yeah, throw her under the bus. That's fine. Although Vashmore is from Quebec, and so is Celine Dion. And so, I don't know, maybe he might be related to her. He probably is, actually.
What about... The thing is, it's funny because people don't like Justin Bieber so much, it makes me kind of like him because people hate him so much.
Yeah.
So, I'm a bit ambivalent about that one. I mean, he's a little brat, but to be honest... I did watch those documentaries and you see his YouTube stuff and I'm like, the guy's got some skills.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. I was going to say that. Like, yeah, I'm not much into the drama of the stardom drama. Ugh. But the guy does have skills, no doubt about it. And he's doing some funky stuff. Like you hear there's some things he does that I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to, but I say, wow, that's a bit strange. I wouldn't expect that. That's kind of what I like to see. I don't know. I think that give him 10 years from now, I got a feeling that he's going to be still making stuff that nobody will be buying it, except probably the connoisseurs of what he does. I don't mean the pop stuff. I mean, like, I think that I think he's drawn to music like you and I are, and it's hard to deny that. So he may just in his basement be making really cool stuff one of these days that maybe won't be aimed at the charts, but it'll be aimed at just quality music. We'll see. I would love to be.
He's gonna be hitting that Canadian housewife demographic.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we have a few artists that you could throw under the bus here in Canada, but we do have a few good ones. I mean, we got Michael Bublé, in jazz stuff, in that light jazz kind of crooner thing. He's good. Diana Krall, married to Elvis Costello.
Oh, yes, of course. She's Canadian. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's from Vancouver. And actually, I know her producer. And then we have jazz. Oscar Peterson passed away a little while ago, a few years back.
Is he Canadian? No way. That was one of my dad's favorites.
Really? Yeah, I know his daughter. Yeah, I've never met him, though. But, he's obviously he's fantastic. I have his Canadian album on tape on reel to reel. I said Canadian. I mean his Christmas album. I have it on reel to reel. His Christmas album on reel to reel. We have some fantastic musicians out of here. Like we just had one guy pass away a little while ago, Gordon Downey. Now Gordon Downey was the lead singer for Tragically Hip. And I
remember you saying.
Yeah, like they put out 15 albums or something, and I have to tell you, like I have to say to anybody out there, like Stick, you must have it from time to time. Somebody would say, "Oh, this guy." I don't know, like say Phil Spector. Yeah, you got to check out Phil Spector. And like for me, like if you said to me, Bucky, check out Phil Spector, I go, okay, well, I don't know anything. I know nothing by Phil Spector. I know the work he's done with other people, some of it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you anything in particular by Phil Spector. So you would say, well, you got to go check out his stuff. My guess is that there's probably an ocean of material by Phil Spector. Yeah. So with some of these artists, I love that because then I can say, okay, I got a Sunday afternoon off, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig in. Right? I'm going to spend the afternoon listening to Phil Spector. Or I would say to you spend the afternoon listening to Tragically Hip. And there's artists that, there's musicians, there's artists out there that when somebody like you say, you really should check this out, then I would say, okay, that's worth doing, yes. But I mean, a lot of times people would say, "Oh, you got to check out this person named Justin Bieber," and I go, "Okay, really? Seriously?" Like, but then there's musicians that have such a great body of work, like Oscar Peterson or Tom Waits or John Hyatt, or and not every song is killer, but there's some there that are just real solid, real nuggets, right?
I have to admit, I was so blown away by Oscar Peterson being Canadian. I had to check it out. So yes, Montreal, Quebec. You are correct, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's again, it's a small town, right? Like Canada's a small town. I mean, we're one of the biggest
Oh,
countries in the world, but
hopefully you've got Neil Young, the band, and now Oscar Peterson.
y-
Seriously,
yeah, there you go.
I'm really upset about this. I'm not happy.
Well, now we've got to throw Rush in there too for Scaredy Cat. Rush is in there too.
Yeah, throw that in. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh no.
yeah, there's some great bands come out of here. Now, there's another one I throw under the bus is what are they called? I'm not gonna remember it now.
Some 41.
No, no, I wouldn't throw those guys under the bus. You know why I
They're
wouldn't?
okay. I don't mind them.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw them under the bus because they were a bunch of kids who went, seriously, seriously, you like that? That's the kind of feeling I got from them, was that like they put out the album, like they had Fat Lip, and they're going, seriously? I could see them now.
Actually, I just remembered one of the biggest ones you can throw under the bus, and this is a very personal thing for me, is Avril Lavigne. And it's got hardly anything to do with her music. It's the fact that because I'm a skater, she coined the term that every non-skater says to me, so you're a skater boy.
Yeah.
So she has eternally marked my card. So for that, I would throw her under a steamroller, followed by a bus, followed by a jumbo jet.
Yeah, well, I throw her under the bus for a lot of reasons. I'll take that one too. But no, I'm not a big fan of Avril Lavigne. I thought that when that album came out, I thought, okay, let's have a good listen. Maybe there's something else there. And then nah. There's a look, with the mascara and the torn, jeans and the, oi, no, I'm not into it. No, I'd throw 100 bucks. But there's another one that Nickelback. Okay, Nickelback.
Oh, right.
No, you can throw Nickelback under the bus. I don't.
I don't know. I kind of like that they annoy people so much again, but I don't really care about them.
Well, listen, I got to tell you about a punk rock thing that I got to ask you about with this one. Now, I think I know what I'm going to hear, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So, okay, first of all, U2. Okay, U2.
I hate them.
Now, hang on. I know, but hang on. Just hear this one out. So when they did their album Pop, you remember that one?
Yeah.
They did the album release at a Walmart, and Bono said, "We're doing it at a Walmart because this is the punk rock thing to do. Because this is so anti-establishment, So we do it at a Walmart because it's the people would be expecting. That'll be the last thing people would be expecting." How do you feel about that?
I think it's just a pose and a posture because there's a main thing that U2 did. I've forgotten what album it is, and I've forgotten the name of the band. It's something I'd have to maybe even write about, but they basically like ripped off this band's way of doing things, and then they try to sue the band. I'm being very vague.
That sounds like Neil Young and his album. Like, you get sued for not sounding like yourself.
It was I can't remember what the name of the group was, but it was basically they were the first ones to start taking images and working with audio visual, and then they sampled a U2 song, and U2 took them to the cleaners basically and bankrupted them.
Oh,
and
wow.
also they don't pay any tax in Ireland, and Bono bangs on about being, for the people. So
yeah,
let's just end that there. You don't want to get me started.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm with you. I love Daniel Lanois. Now, talk about Canadian musicians. I don't know if you know that name, but Daniel Lanois is a Canadian and really great guy. He's from Quebec, and he produced. I think he produced the Boy album. What was it? No. Unforgettable Fire. He started with Unforgettable Fire. Him and Brian Eno, and
Okay.
then they worked on all this other material for YouTube. But Daniel Lanois produces a lot of people. See, so I love Daniel Lanois. So when Joshua Tree came out, I said I heard it and I said, what a great sound, because I that was like '88, so I was like 18, and I was thinking, that sound, holy cow, that's amazing. And I knew that it wasn't U2, it was the producer who was making the sound. So I said, who is this guy Lanois? And then I said, Canadian? Are you kidding me? And then I had to look at some other stuff he did. And he did Parachute Club, which was a Canadian band that had like one hit, and that was great mix. And then I started seeing some other things. Then I started following Lanois. Now, Daniel Lanois, he put out an album. He had a couple albums that are amazing. Acadie, which never leaves my desktop. Like, it's on my desktop right now, and it never leaves it. And then he put out another one called the Beauty of Winona. Now, on the Beauty of Winona, that's masterful. Like, I got to tell you, like, that is a sonic masterpiece. I love it. Now, some people would listen to it and say, I don't get it, but Eno worked on it with them. He's a great steel guitar player and singer and guitar player as well, but he plays steel. So a lot of his inspiration comes from playing the steel guitar. So this big washy, big full chord washy sound. Oh, it's gorgeous. But he's a rocker too. Man, I tell you what, you check out Acadie and you check out The Beauty of Winona. Those two albums. Now, he put out a new one a little while ago, like within a year ago, called Body. Was it Flesh and something in Flesh or something like that? But it's electronic. And holy man, Hey Matt Sokol put out a track a little while ago. It was electronic. And when I saw he was into electronic, I sent him that one to have a listen to, a track off that.
Yeah.
And he really liked that. But I tell you, like, that guy, I think you should check out Daniel Lanois. And Daniel Lanois is the kind of guy that, like seriously, I think that if you were to call him on the phone and say hello, he would say, "Hey, how you doing? What can I do for you?" Like, he seems like the guy, you know. But he's somebody you should definitely check out too. But
it's definitely. I was just gonna say it's interesting as you get more into music and recording, like producers become your new sort of rock stars.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, really. Like, there's another guy, a Canadian guy named Bob Rock, and Bob Rock,
yes.
So I like his sound. He did the Metallica Black album.
That's the one. Yeah.
Holy sound. You know, when they did that, Lars Ulrich's drum sound, they took a room, and which was like, I don't know, like 20 by 20, and they brought in all these sheets of plywood, like 3/8 plywood, and they covered the floor, covered the walls, covered the ceiling, complete box of plywood, and that's how they started with that, and then they went from there. That's amazing. There's so, like, the recording techniques for me, like you're saying, the producers become the rock stars. That's what I'm the same way. I recorded a full album of Jesus Christ Superstar years ago, back in like 94 or something, like 95. So the band I was recording is all remote. So the band was in one room, and the drummer was in another room, and the guitarist was in another room, and the choir and the singer. So we were all spread all out, and it was all done remote. So I was in the center of it all. So when we mic'd the drums, I used one microphone. I wanted to get the drum sound to be super raw, so I used one microphone. And I had him in a room, and he was isolated pretty good, but I think the guitarist was in the room with him, but the guitar amp was somewhere else. And I had one single condenser pointing upward, like not under the snare, but like a little forward of the snare. And, And it took us 2 hours to place that microphone. And when we got it placed, it was just the biggest, dirtiest, filthiest sound. And that's what we did. And I still have the tracks to that. And every now and then for like parlor trick, if I have somebody come over like yourself, I'll put it on. I'll say, "How many microphones do you think I'm using on this track?" And you'll say, "Well, I don't know, 6, 8. I'll say, "It's only one. It's only one microphone."
Well, I think Bob Rock must be a good producer only because Lars Ulrich is one of the worst drummers in the world. So the fact that he made him sound good
He made him
is
sound
like
good.
something.
Yes, I'm
He's
with you.
awful. Like
Yeah.
he is awful.
Yeah, really. Like I think I listen to a lot of Metallica, and I hear I hear this parts, and I go, like, that bass line, that guitar part, that's so cool, and that's all he could come up with.
Oh man, I mean, it
He
was cool in the beginning when it was rough and ready, but um, I was just going to segue over to some of the producers. Like, there's two guys that sort of pop into my head.
Yeah.
These guys have the Midas touch. One is like I'd say 70s to 80s, is Niles Rodgers.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, he did everything. He's really annoying. I feel like saying like, Niall, don't you think some of us could have a piece of that pie?
That's right.
And then the other guy is Rick Rubin, who's just
Yes.
done everything.
Oh,
And these people are just insane. I really hate them.
yeah, I know what you're saying. Rick Rubin, um, like how many things has he done? You look.
Well, off the top of my head, you got Slayer's Rain and Blood, the breakthrough album of theirs. You got the Beastie Boys album, the
Yeah.
breakthrough album of theirs.
Mm.
You got
That's Paul's
you got the
Boutique,
Johnny
right?
Cash thing he did. You know,
Oh wait,
so
no, hang on. I said Paul's Boutique. That's wrong. With
it was the
the one with the jet on the front.
License to Ill.
License to
License
Ill.
to
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's the one. You got to fight for your right to party. That was a great album. Yeah, when you think about musicians like that have a great body of work, and you look at the milestone albums like License to Ill, cool. Paul's Boutique, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Anybody who's a Beastie Boys fan knows that's the album.
Yeah, but what I find really, really interesting is you look at albums like people say that, like say the Beatles, the Sgt. Pepper. People say Sgt. Pepper was a masterpiece. It was a great album. Da, 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 da. And I say, okay, Revolver came before that. Revolver is where you can really see the work happening, because that was the album that resulted in Sgt. Pepper. So if you think Sgt. Pepper is a real refined, solid piece of stuff, like a milestone album, I believe that the picks and the shovels and all the sweat and blood and everything went into Revolver.
Yeah.
That was leading up to it. And there's other albums like that too, other artists. And I think that License to Ill was a great album. But I think that Paul's Boutique was a masterpiece. Another one too, another example of that is you say you're into 90s hip hop and stuff. Public Enemy, you got
Oh
Fear,
yeah.
you got Fear of a Black
Yeah,
Planet.
yeah.
Fear of a Black Planet, masterpiece.
Yeah.
But
Really like I just love the way, when you get into the hip hop side of things, the way people became electronic sort of masters, but a lot of these people were probably in the projects, and by hook or by crook they got a laptop or they got a sampler,
yeah,
and with just that thing, like De La Soul, sample geniuses,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
so.
I remember reading about when they made Fear of a Black Planet, and they would have tape loops 30 feet long. And they said they would have to be standing in the studio, like 5 or 6 guys, holding this tape as it fed through the machine over and over and over and over. So they're holding the tape loop, so it doesn't tangle as it went through the machine over. I mean, that's fantastic. But see, that's something else too that I really believe in is limitation. Those guys, like you're saying, by hook or by crook, they got the gear they needed to make the stuff, and hell or high water, they're going to do it. Yeah. And it's the same thing with tech today. You can easily, fire up some big, workstation and have every sample you ever want from the beginning of time right there in front of you, and, where are you going to start? But like that's one of the reasons why I love stripped down stuff. Because it shows the artist, it shows more of the soul. Where if I can layer on all these samples that I'm just pulling down off the net, I think I'll throw a little bit of strings on. I think I'll throw a little bit of that on.
I was gonna do a segue because you're talking about the tape loops and stuff.
Yep.
Because I wanted to give someone a shout out.
Yep.
Now the tape loops thing, there was a band probably around the same time, the Jesus and Mary Chain. Apparently they had the same thing going on.
Oh yeah.
With the big tape loops going around. But I think one of the biggest compliments I've got about production wise is when I did that, me and you did that last song with the epic drums and that, and Shane played it on his show, and he said to me, I see you reference Jesus and Mary Chain, and you got that drum beat spot on. And I was like, yes. So in terms of production, so I want to thank him for saying that, because it meant a lot in terms of production to know that you actually, because I took the drum sound off this keyboard I've got and then started to play with the reverb, and just that thing where you start to go, oh, that's how you get those things. So yeah.
Wow.
So thank you, Shane, for that if you're listening.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's really nice. It's one thing I do find about Steam It is that people are very they're very nice, and I love it that Shane has something in his head, he has a compliment in his head, and he'll say it, which is good. There's so many other places. If you walk into a radio station with something, they're going, yeah, I've listened to your material. And that's it. Yeah. It's like, okay, is it that bad? But in here, I find people are always really nice and friendly and willing to say what they think, which is great. I love that. That's good. Well, it was epic. It was an epic drum track. Another one that I'd like to segue into was When Darkness Comes. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah. Now, can you tell me a little bit about like the background in that one, if you don't mind?
No, it's cool. It's I wrote that like about a year ago. I was just learning. I've still been trying to learn piano, only because piano's kind of cool for songwriting, because what people might not realize is when you play a guitar and whatnot, it's quite one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. So in terms of writing songs, you can't see how a bass line will match up with a chord or a melody. So anyway, I was learning piano, and that one sort of just came out like it was a pretty dark time. I walked out of a job. The backstory's in the post. Walked out of a job. My dad had passed away, so it was a really, really dark time. And I've always been one of the sort of mentality to be like, I want to drink when I want to have fun. I don't want to start, So basically, that was just those times in your life when you just sit there and just let it just be sad, basically, and just go with it. So that's pretty much, and that was on ice for until I got onto Steam It, until you jumped in with the piano, and I realized I could, because it was always epic in my head. It was Walker Brothers, it was Phil Spector, and Jesus and Mary Chain, because that's basically what Jesus and Mary Chain were trying to do. That was their version of Phil Spector. So it was only then that I was like, okay, now it's possible to get a really epic sound. So that's how that one went.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's just really cool. It's really nice to have a vision of where you want things to go, where you want your art to go. I really like working with people that I like working with people on both sides of that spectrum, where they come in and they say, okay, Bucky, I want you to play A and then B. Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then I also like when people go, okay, I'd like you to come in and do your thing. I had a band back in the 90s that invited me in the studio. They were like a contained band, but they wanted me to come in as a guest. And I came in and they said, okay, just do your thing. And I was like, what? Like, seriously? Like, what do you want me to do? And like, no, you just got to do your thing. And like, I was rim wrecked. Like, I didn't know where to go. It was like, that was bad. That was bad. And I never was happy with the performance. But then there's other times when somebody could say, okay, here's the material. You're going to take a week, play away, come back and let me know what you think. And then, you do that. But I also love it when people say, here's what I want you to do. David Farr, he's on Steam It with us as well. And he's had some things that he's asked me to play for him that I've done, where I've done, he wants this specific part. And then, so I will play exactly what he asked for. And then he can then take it from there. So it's really cool. I mean, what I invite you to do, Stick, is that if you want to do more of these orchestral overlays like that, like you want to like lay over and lay over and lay over, if you said to me, okay, here's a G chord. I want you to play every note of the G chord, track by track by track, and with the because I got a cello here, see, and I have cello and viola
Oh,
and yeah, I have it all.
wow.
So like if you said like I want this full orchestral chord, like I got 18 notes. Okay, no
Okay.
problem. I'll do.
I don't know when someone last said this to you, but you just blew my mind, man. Orchestral? You kidding me? Like I said, like I kind of love that period in music when it was like the Walker Brothers. Like I've got some of their records, and I just love that stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, that sounds insane. I was just gonna come back because I'm actually gonna probably have to shoot off in a bit.
sure.
But I was just gonna come back to the last thing I was gonna get to, which is where I'm at in terms of the band paradigm.
Yeah,
And in terms of making music, I've got like my own band, which I've just started under my name. And the idea is the band is me, because I think as you get older, you can start being a bit more egotistical and put your pseudonym, as it
no
were.
problem, no problem.
Um, and so my idea is to basically pick up musicians. It's almost like what they did in the 60s and 50s. I know Chuck Berry would just turn up in Paris. And so because I know a bunch of people in the States and around Europe and Sweden and stuff like that, my new thing is to turn up, rehearse for a couple of hours, and then play a gig the next day or something. And then if they skate, then we go skate the next day.
Yeah,
So that's become my new musical project. And I might be doing this in Sweden over spring because I've got a guy in Stockholm. And I'm going to try get to New York in February because I got some buddies in New York. I just wrote to one of my friends and just said, hey. So that's just trying to keep the sword sharp because I'm really bored with bands and the fact that you have to commit to so many people. So I'm into just being way more egotistical and going, I want to go here and I'm going to make it work. So
yeah.
that's one of the last things I wanted to drop in there. That's my new project and idea.
Well, it's really exciting. I think that's a good. I think it's a good plan. I don't think that's egotistical. I just think that you just know what what you want to achieve in music. You know, it's nice to get together from time to time with people and share what they want as well. But the fact is that when it comes to the grand scheme of things, you probably have a better understanding than 99% of the musical population on what is going to work. And so yeah, like I have a friend. There's a friend of mine who plays on Broadway in New York, and he was the drummer for the Wicked show for years and years, and they would tour. So what they do is they would never like there was a pianist, a guitarist, drummer. I think that was about it, and they would show up in a city. The musicians that wanted to play with them, they were hired or maybe not. I don't know. They would rehearse for a day on the material, and then have a big party, and then the next day play the show. So they'd roll into Philadelphia just with like a drummer and the guitarist and keyboardist, and then they just the local musicians would come out, maybe 10 of them, and they would play, and it was fantastic. I mean, that model works. I mean, if it works for the Wicked show, it's going to work for.
I think like when you get into recording and production, like you just like you say, you have a good idea of like what you want, and you probably pick that up when I send stuff to you. I'm like, these are the notes. I want you to play a fifth above that, because a lot of people who actually know me, like they say I'm very laid back. I am very laid back, but if I don't like it, I'll tell you straight away.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
No,
you know,
no, that's
especially with music.
No, that's the way you got to be. No, that's good. That's the way you got to be. It's good. You need people to be decisive. I think that if you look at any of these really popular artists that are either solo acts or bands that have longevity and have a good solid body of work, it's because somebody in the organization was willing to pull the trigger. Pull the trigger artistically, pull the trigger probably management-wise, but somebody was willing to pull the trigger. Because if you're just kind of wishy-washy and everybody's really laid back on everything, well, then nothing gets done. You know? You gotta make decisions. So, well,
Yeah.
listen, if you go, I doubt you're going to be in Newfoundland for any tour anytime soon, but you're certainly welcome here. And I could put together a great band to back you up. But
Oh,
if you end up in New York, let me know because I've got some friends down there that professional musicians are playing all the time, and they might be interested in, at the very least, coming to see you. But you never know, maybe playing with you. Some of these people are pretty good. So,
I don't want professionals look at me. They're gonna laugh me out of the room.
yeah, well, go away. No, listen, if they're my buddies, they're not laughing anybody out of the room. It was funny. We did a recording session there about 2 weeks ago, and this guy I was telling you about, it was with Wicked Show. He called me up and he said, "Yeah, I'm doing this album," and I said, "Okay, good." And he said, "Yeah, it's going. We're going in this little restaurant in St. John's, Newfoundland. Yeah, we're going to this little restaurant down by the beach, and we're just going to set up some microphones and just record it." He said, "You in?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there."
Awesome.
That was and this is a guy like he's like that'll be like released big time like proper album, but that's as much like he knows musically what he wants. But when it comes to like,
Yeah.
he surrounds himself with people he likes and trusts, and let's just get together, have a few drinks, play a bit of music, and because he got the musical integrity that you have, he knows that, hey, if I like it, then other people will like it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it is, and you know that. If you do what you like that drum track you did, you know that you play that drum track because you like it. Well, then it's just natural. It's a course of nature. Everybody else is going to like it because it's good. Can't fight nature.
I'm also I'm also hoping to get the physical product out there because on my music scene, it's called the garage punk scene over here, sort of. But there's a growth and popularity of cassette
Oh,
tapes.
really?
And I was actually speaking to Matt Sokol about it. It's quite funny because he was a bit perplexed. He was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, the thing is, it's the overheads are really cheap. There's places in London you basically send them the recordings and they'll dub it onto 30 tapes for you for less than $100, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can put your own design on it, and then you put like a little download code in it. So that's another project I'm working on to maybe release some body of work. I have reached out to some artists. This is the reason why I wanted to mention this. So I reached out to some artists, Julia Ponsford being one of them. So
Yeah.
if you know how to do it, it's cool. But I just wanted to poke the stick a bit.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, like that's really exciting project. I love being involved in anything like that. It's funny, but the cassettes. I'm looking at a cassette right here on my desk. Like it. and I guess I'm looking over my shoulder. Oh, there's my cassette player right there on my shelf. Like I don't, I'm that technology. There's something about tape. I know that there's a lifestyle thing there too. The sharing
Yeah.
of the cassettes and it's a very nostalgic thing as well. But the fact of the matter is that I love tape. I just like the sound of it. I've got a 4-track reel-to-reel I'm looking at right now, which I love. And when I put my fiddle through that 4-track, boy, there's some kind of voodoo goes on it that there's
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
And not only that, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit nostalgic, but that 4-track used to belong to my old percussion teacher, who was a master musician, passed away in 2001, and that used to belong
Wow.
to him. So whenever I play anything on that, see, his name was Don. So whenever I play anything on that, if I mix something back, like so if I put a stem out from Pro Tools to that and it comes back, when it comes back and I listen to it and I go, oh, that sounds so good. Don did that.
Yeah. I like that.
Every time
Well,
I do it. Yeah.
well, at least I got one sale guaranteed. There we go.
You got it. You got it. I'll even pay shipping from the UK.
No, you don't have to pay shipping. I'll do that. But I think I'm gonna have to, like I said, I'm gonna have to bust out of here. I got to get to rehearsal and play my
Yes.
gig and be a real person.
Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on here. This has been fantastic chat. I can't look.
That's
You know
all
what?
right,
I
man.
didn't. I don't want to impose on anybody and ask them to stay too long, but we've been here for 1 hour and 40 minutes.
I've been looking at the clock. I've been looking at the clock.
Well, it's been a good chat. Listen, I really appreciate it. And for those people just tuning in, this is Stick Champion and myself, Bucky Dirtle, and we are here at backstage with Bucky. And I think this has been very backstage. I think you agree. This has been very backstage. It's been a great time. Thank you very much for giving us your time today and giving us your insight into music, Steam It, cassettes, Phil Spector. We love it. So thank you very much. Great. Have good luck with the rest of your day with your rehearsal, and being a real non-online person.
Thank you.
Now I'm back live. I'm back live. Now wasn't that just the coolest? I mean, I gotta say, Stick was the best interview on earth. Stick was the best. That was fantastic. I wish there was a way we could, like, yay, give him a hand, give Stick a hand, guys. Is there some? We have a emoticon for that. Yay, give Stick a hand for the standing ovation. That was fantastic. I love it. I love it. The collaboration. Which one? You talking about the one that we did back in the day. Let me see. I'll pull it up real quick here. This is the one we did with. Well, see, it's different variations of them, right? Because okay. Well, hang on. I'll play the one. I'll see if I can find the one here that was that Vashmore came in on. So Stick did the drum track first, and then Carl picked it up, and then after Carl picked it up, then I put on a fiddle track, and then Vashmore came on with some rock and keyboard. Here it is. When Stick goes from like dun 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 dun, and he goes over to the ride after that section, he goes back over to the ride. Oh my, that is just the sickest. I'm here grooving all around my studio here. That was fantastic. Stick, you are a madman. That was fantastic. Well, listen, at the beginning of the show, we were talking about this. We were saying, how can we make it so that we can be collaborating, get a more free, intuitive way to collaborate on Steemit. And there has to be ways we can do it. And we've already had, I posted a post about this today, and there was a lot of people that contributed to the post. I don't know how many comments we had. People with all kinds of great ideas on how we can collaborate. So my invitation to everybody is, if you're a shower singer, or maybe you play a little bit of guitar in the basement and you're thinking you might like to play some music, wade in on this. Let's figure it out. Let's find a way that we can do this so that we can be collaborating easily, so everybody can collaborate. Now, during our conversation here today, we did have another. We talked about like the big jam. Do you remember? You singers out there, you remember? We were talking about the big old jam, and I would love to do that. The big jam, what we talked about, for those people who didn't get to see the posts, if you like singing, then what we can do is We can lay down like a bed track of like, I don't know, like let's say Christmas songs. I mean, maybe there's something else. I don't know. But let's say if we did Christmas songs. You know, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas or something like that, or Silver Bells or something. We could do that, put it out there, and then like Christy can sing, and Krim can sing, and anybody that wants to sing can go listen to the track, record yourself, you know, and then what I'll do is I'll take all of your tracks, put them together, and we'll have like it'll just be like a choir. So even if you say I don't really sound that great by myself, no problem, because you'll be with 20 other people, so nobody's going to hear you. You're going to be in a big old group, and I'm not going to. I mean, I'll be the only one to hear you by yourself, and I'm not going to share it. So like you do it. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, and I think that'd be a lot of fun. And look, why not? The way I find with these projects are, if you do that, then you might find something that works really well. But if you don't take the time to, if we don't, I don't know, turn over that rock, then next thing, we just time goes past us and we won't have an opportunity. So I would invite everybody to do that. So let's do it. Let's try to do something and get at it. Go to the discussion room where we have all of our our music discussion room. I'm trying to do three things at once here. Where we have our music discussions, and let's talk about what we can do here. I want to play something. Stick, is it okay if I play when the darkness comes to finish this off, because we got a couple more minutes left? Is that okay with you, Stick? I'm going to assume there's a 7-second delay here or something, so you probably like take 7 seconds before you answer. So, but hang on a second now. Oh, I'm trying to find it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so when the darkness comes. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is the one. This is another one that we worked on, and I believe Stick. I believe this was with Nash, Carl, myself, and I think David Farr worked on this one too. I think so. So this is an original composition by Stick Champion. Check it out.
Darkness comes, I'll be ready. When the storm rolls in, I'll be steady. For when the darkness comes, I'll be ready. And when the storm goes in, I'll be steady. And darkness comes, I'll be ready. When the storm rolls in, I'll be steady. When that dark wave picks me up, I'll be steady. Ride it all the way down till it turns around. For when the darkness comes, I'll be ready. And when the storm goes in, I'll be steady. For when the darkness comes, I'll be ready.
Yoo-hoo! Give him a hand, guys. That was Stick Champion. Stick Champion, rocking and rolling. Rockin' and rollin'. That was When the Darkness Comes, and you can check it out on his blog. He also has another song in there called When Complaints Come. Is that right? Stick? Very cool stuff. I love it. So you can check that one out too. That's up on his blog. Check out all the stuff that's up there. It's really cool stuff. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Well, listen, once again, you guys have been a fantastic audience. I love yous. I love yous all. You're all deadly. God love yous. I like take you home, cook you dinner, right? Give you a big old jigs dinner. All right, well, listen, it's lovely having time with you. I'm going to, well, I've got 20 seconds before I'm going to evacuate the premises. So in the last 20 seconds, I'm going to play you a song. Bye.